Well, we've come to the end of our first ever guest sessions feature for Carpology, and it's been a really tough 48 hours here on Rosemere. Here's what happened. I've only been at the lake 5-10 minutes and I've just walked into a peg known as the helipad, I think it's called, and there's a few patches of weed in front of me, and on the margin to my left there's a load of bulrushes, lots of cover, and there's a lot of fish here. I'm looking now at least half a dozen fish milling around over these weed beds. I've seen one just poke its dorsal fin up. They are quite high in the water. There's one then just boiled, just inches under the surface. So yeah, there's plenty of fish here. There's some proper chunks, and I really can't wait for this session.
I finally got 2 rods in the water. I had to wait quite a while before I was able to make the first cast because there was quite a few fish in front of me, and I didn't just want to cast out and spook them. The fish I'm seeing here are within a foot of the surface, so I've gone with zigs. I didn't really know how deep it was. I could tell it was fairly shallow just by the amount of weed in this corner and the reeds and what have you. So I guessed it to be about 6 foot. I obviously didn't want to. Well, there's a fish just rolled there. Obviously, I didn't want to start casting a marker float around the swim and spooking them, so I guessed it about 6 foot. Luckily, I am just underarming, so I can see where the zig is sat. My first cast was about 2 foot laying on the surface, so obviously I've shortened it. Oh, there's a fish coming in close. Just took myself in these reeds, in these brambles. That's a big fish. So yeah, it turned out it was about 4 foot deep. So I've now got a zig at about one just under 4 foot, and one around 3.5. I'm just watching a fish now, just coming through a gap in the weed. But if these zigs don't produce, then I'm already sort of watching their patrol routes. And it's quite clear already that they do have certain paths that they prefer to follow. So come this evening when I'm going to drop down and set my traps on the bottom, I already know, well, I've already got a good idea where will be the best place to try and intercept them and nick a bite, hopefully.
Well, the zigs have had a couple of hours and nothing's happened there, but conditions have changed since I first cast out. The sun's gone in now, it's quite overcast and the temperature's dropped a couple of degrees. I've not seen any fish cruising around for probably the past 15 minutes, but I'm sure that there are still fish in the area. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take these zigs off and have a bit of a change of tactics. Well, as you can see, I'm now going with a solid PVA bag approach. It is February still, the fish aren't exactly feeding with gusto, so all I want to do really is just provide them with a mouthful of food and set my trap on one of these little patrol routes where the fish have been swimming. Hopefully it's nothing really for them then just to tip down, pick up a patch of food, just one mouthful, and my hook bait will be in that one mouthful. Well, it's coming up to 5:30 now, and although it's been a lovely spring-like day today, now that the sun is starting to set, we are reminded that it is still winter. Temperatures really dropped and it's pretty cold. The rods have been in the water for probably an hour, hour and a half, something like that, since we cast out them solid PVA bags. I've not really seen anything since then. I've not had any liners, and I'm a little bit concerned that it took me a few too many casts to be able to find those clear areas in amongst the weed beds. But I guess that's one of the things with coming to a lake that I'm not familiar with. It's not like I know it like the back of my hand and it's a case of 3 casts and trap set. But I'm sure the fish will come back here. It's obviously an area where they want to be. There's lots of weed, there's reed beds, there's plenty of overhanging foliage down the left-hand margin, lots of cover for them. So I'm sure they will return here. But I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what the night brings. But you might be able to hear the kettle chattering away. So I think the only thing now is it's time for tea and also a sausage sandwich. What? Well, just a few minutes ago I was saying hadn't seen anything, hadn't had any liners, and then out of the blue, rod rips off. I don't know if I mentioned earlier I saw a very small ghostie, about £8. I have a feeling it's that, but I'm not bothered. It is as well. It is as well. Yeah, it is. It's that one. That's unbelievable, isn't it? Oh well, it's a. I think I was overestimating it when I said £8 as well. Oh well, he's a blank saver if nothing else. What are the chances of that? Well, this isn't exactly what Rosemere is known for, but it's a start anyway. And I'm going to take quite a lot of positive from this one, because I had seen this little fella swimming around with all them chunks, and if he's returned to the area, then there's every chance them bigger fish have as well. So yeah, we're off the mark. Well, it's 8 o'clock in the morning now, and nothing's happened through the night. Haven't really received any liners or anything, but I do get the impression this would be a daytime area anyway, so I wasn't too disheartened that I didn't catch last night. Ben, the fishery owner, he come down last night and we were chatting for a while, supping a few brews, and he told me that little £5 ghostie I caught yesterday was actually the first fish that's been out of here this year, and actually the first fish that's been out since December. So yeah, I can take some positive from that. In fact, it's only the second fish that's been out of this lake since October, is what he said. So yeah, there's certainly some positives to be taken there. I am still confident. Like I said, I think this is an area they are going to visit through the day, so we're just going to have to keep our fingers crossed. Well, I just left Lewis, cameraman, in charge of the rods while I went for a lap of the lake, and I've just found a fish fizzing away just a couple of foot from the bank. And at this time of year, when feeding times are just going to be for very limited periods, it's an opportunity I really can't ignore. So I'm reeling in. I'm just going to take one rod and a pocket full of bits, a few little PVA bags, and we're going to go over there and see if we can't sneak this fish out the edge. Well, this is the area where I'd seen that fish feeding. It was just a few feet from the bank. I managed to get a rig in place without spooking him, but after about 5-10 minutes I just saw an almighty bow wave as the fish did spook off something. I don't know if it caught the line on its fins, or it could have been 3 geese having a massive fight right next to it, but either way that fish, he was gone. And I was just about to sort of give up hope with that really, and then I saw a fish drifting in, which can only have been a fish known as Harris. It's the biggest fish in the lake. It was caught back end last year at over 55 pound, and there really was no mistaking it. It was that fish, and he kept sort of drifting in and out of the area, and there was one point where it drifted right over the top of the hook bait and tipped down. I thought I was going to take the hook bait. My heart was absolutely pounding, but it seemed to tip down, go under a weed bed, and then reappear at the other side of it. But he's still in the area. He keeps doing a few laps, and he's following the same patrol routes every time. I've got my hook bait and a small PVA bag right on one of them patrol routes, so hopefully next time he comes in and tips down, we'll nail him. Well, it's been a really frustrating day today, trying to stalk those fish up at the other end, but by the shallows. I've had fish right over the top of the hook baits, but all I've had is a couple of liners really to show for my efforts. Harris, he stayed in the area for a while, but then eventually I lost sight of him. But then there was at least two other fish feeding not far from there. So what I have done, you're allowed to stalk pretty much anywhere on the lake, but you can only fish from, you can only bivvy up on the actual swims. So what I've done, I've put in a bit of bait on those two spots where I saw the fish feeding today, and I've come back to my original spot for tonight. If we haven't caught here tonight, then I've got those two baited areas to fall back on. I will go and check them first thing in the morning, and I'm quite confident them fish are likely to revisit them spots again, so we'll have to wait and see. Well, that really is it for this session now. It's time for me to hit the road. We haven't been able to do as much filming as we'd have liked this morning. That's because we've been getting absolutely battered by Storm Doris, and it's just been playing havoc with our sound equipment. But I did go back to that area where I pre-baited, where I'd seen Harris feeding yesterday, and I stuck it out there for about 3 hours. But I didn't see anything in the area, but with all that chop on the water, all them waves, it was hard to see anything, to be honest. But I am going to be leaving this session with a positive. I may not have caught one of the chunks that Rosemere is known for, but I have caught a carp, albeit a 5-pounder. I have caught a carp, and it's the first carp out of the venue this year, the first one since December, and only the second since October. So it's a result, sort of, in my eyes, and I always knew this session was going to be a gamble. It's not an easy water. It's not a heavily stocked water. It's a big fish water, and it is tricky. And I just felt that there was always a chance that gamble could pay off. And I'm sure this won't be the last time we come to Rosemere during this series. But that is it for now. I do need to hit the road, so hopefully join me next month when I'll be on an awesome little water up north.